Welcome to Shakespeare FC, The Words, a 5-minute journey into the individual bits of language that were forged, fletched, hewn, and hammered, and sometimes crowbarred, into existence by our brilliant and witty Warwickshirean wordsmith, or, as you become more familiar, Uncle Will. I'm your host, Kari Marshall. There are some words that describe what we do, and then there are words that describe what happens after everyone has seen us do it. The moment when pride slips, when reputation cracks, when something once admired becomes suddenly spectacularly regrettable. It's not quite failure, exactly. Failure can be private, trust me, I know. But this is something louder, more public, and a bit more messy. The kind of thing whispered about in corridors, texted amongst teens, and sometimes even shouted in accusation across council tables. A fall, not from a ladder, but from esteem. Our fair uncles seem to have an affinity for moments like these, an instant when honor, that delicate currency of kings, generals, and courtiers, suddenly evaporates. And in one of his earliest history plays, he gives that collapse a single, devastating adjective. You don't know what it is? Well, I find that absolutely disgraceful. Disgraceful, as you may know, if not from personal experience, then at least from several hours of doom-scrolling, means something has happened so badly, so publicly, that honor itself has been dragged through the mud. And it is in William's first great history play, Henry VI, that accusation arrives at the very moment England begins to unravel. Henry V, of Agincourt fame, is dead. His son, aptly named Henry VI, is still a child. And France is slipping from English control, and the great nobles of the sceptred isle are beginning to turn on one another. What should be a united kingdom instead becomes a stage for rivalry and blame, with the costly losses in France endlessly argued over, accusations of failure and folly, with the language of honor, once a badge of glory, becoming a weapon. We open Henry VI, Part 1, not with quiet mourning of the dead king, but with grief already giving way to irritation. The Duke of Bedford, the current regent of France, attends Henry's funeral procession with the Dukes of Gloucester and Exeter, along with the Earl of Warwick and the Bishop of Winchester, where they are interrupted by a messenger with urgent news about the loss of English strongholds across France. Bedford is not pleased.
Son, Regent I am of France. Give me my steeled coat. I'll fight for France. Away with these disgraceful wailing robes. Wounds will I lend the French instead of eyes, to weep their intermissive miseries.
Bedford, ever the soldier before sentimentalist, has little patience for this ceremonial sorrow, casting aside what he calls these disgraceful wailing robes, and instead reaches for his bellicose breastplate of bravado, reminding us that in Uncle Will's world even grief must not get in the way of war. The word disgraceful, you will not be surprised, grows from the older noun grace, from the Latin gratia, meaning favor, esteem, goodwill, the respect granted by society or a sovereign. Add the prefix dis, meaning removal or reversal, and you have disgrace, the loss of honor. Then comes the suffix full, turning it into an adjective, describing something once full of grace, now steeped in shame. By the time the Wars of the Roses erupts later in the century, the word disgrace will no longer describe a single act or person. It will describe an entire nation's descent into chaos. But more of that later. I know, a rather disgraceful cliffhanger. Well, alas and alack, my friends, that is all we have time for. Join us again next time for another hopefully informative journey into the mind of Uncle William. I'm Kari Marshall. Farewell until next time.
Shakespeare Full Circle is a production of WGTE Public Media and is sponsored in part by the generous support of the Cowie Family Charitable Trust and Michelle and Kelvin McElwain. All previous episodes are available at wgte.org/sfc and wherever you get your podcasts.